Hi students, in this video we're going to look at how to display categorical data. So after watching this video you should be able to state the way that categorical data can be displayed. You should be able to understand the key components of a graph and make sure you can include them. We're going to use the acronym SALT to help us remember those components, and then display categorical data in a frequency distribution table and also in a bar graph. The key things you have to recall: so categorical data is data that is descriptive. So we're looking usually for words or ideas. So we're not usually looking for like some sort of number, like the number of people who attended a footy game on the weekend. We're not looking for that kind of data. We're looking for descriptive data, words and ideas. Then also remembering what the mode of a data set is. So mode just means most common. What was the most common outcome of the set that we were looking at? All right. Now, categorical data is best displayed as either frequency distribution tables or bar graphs. So frequency distribution tables, or FDTs, contain categories on the left-hand side. So in this example, we've got our categories here on the left and the frequency on the right. So reminder, the frequency just means how many times that outcome occurred. So for example, we've got our furniture store that asks customers to rate their customer service after shopping with them using the ratings very good, good, okay, and bad. Now it's categorical data because it's the outcomes, the options, the data they're collecting, their descriptions, right? The customer service was okay, the customer service was very good, the customer service was bad. The data, the information we're getting, it's not numerical, it's a category, it's a description. And so that's why we can use a frequency distribution table here. We have the outcomes or the scores or the choices on the left, and then the number of people who nominated or chose that option in the frequency column on the right. Now, bar graphs display the categories of data on the horizontal axis and the frequency of data, so the number of times the outcome occurs, on the vertical axis. So you can see out here we've got our customer service rating from our previous example on one side, and we've got our frequency going upwards. Now for our bar graph, there should be gaps in between. So these categories are very separate. It's not like they're close together and overlapping or anything like that. Each bar is separate from the others because the categories don't have anything to do with each other. They are distinct and separate from each other. Now, when it comes to drawing a graph, all graphs need to contain SALT. Don't mean like salt and pepper. SALT is an acronym for the key components of a graph. So all graphs need to have an appropriate scale. Now what that means is all the data needs to be visible on our graph for our display. Right, so for our previous example, the maximum number was 22. So that means our scale should go up to 25, maybe 30, depending on how much space you have. But we need to make sure all of our numbers, all of our frequencies can be included. So that's why we got up to 25. Now the axes, they need to go up in regular increments. We can't just go up one line and say, all right, we'll go up 1 there, then the next line go up 3, then the next line go up 6, then the next line go up another 3. Each gap, each interval needs to have the same increment. So in this case, our increments are going up in 5s every single time. And those consistent increments are what we need on our axes. Now for a categorical data graph, we don't need to worry about that on the x-axis because we're not measuring anything numerical there. But for our frequency, we need those regular increments. And if we're measuring something, a discrete variable, for example, the increments would need to be the same if we're measuring that on our horizontal axis anyway. L stands for labels. So we need to have clear, concise labels on each axis and also for each of our bars in our bar graph. So clear labels explaining what is being measured on each axis. and clearly labeling each bar. And then finally, we need a clear title. So a title that's informative, that's clear, that explains what is being presented in the graph. We've got an example there for you. Right, so let's do an example. We've got a table here that shows the number of types of pizza that was sold on a Saturday night. We're going to display the information in the bar graph. All right, so looking at the graph here, we've got some papers drawn up ready to go. Notice that our maximum number is 24. And so looking at our scale, we've gone up to 30. So that means, yes, we will definitely be able to fit our bars on this graph. The scale is good. The axes are labeled, the axes all go up in the same increment. So looking at the one we've got here, once again, we're going up in 5s. So we've got that consistent increment, that consistent increase along our axes. So that's A. We've got some labels, our frequency, our types of pizza, and we've got labels for each bar. And then we've got our title, which is ready to go. Now for our bars, all we do is we look at where we've got our first column. So for Italian, we'll draw our bar upwards to 10, across and down. Right? Now obviously when you've got a ruler, you can draw those bars nice and neat, and you'll have some graph paper to draw those on as well to make sure you're consistently going up to the correct height each time. For pepperoni, we'll go up to 15. So up here. Now these columns should be the same width as well. So for a bar graph, the columns all have the same width. For meat lovers, this time we're going up to 24. So here's 25 up here. And we'll be a fraction below that. So there's for meat lovers, and then 16. It's a fraction above 15. So maybe there. And there's how we draw our bar graph. Now we have to also state the mode of the data. So the mode means most common. Looking at our graph here, our mode will be the graph with the highest bar. So that's in this case the meat lovers. So we can say that meat lovers is the mode. Mode is our meat lovers pizza. Right, so after watching this video, you should be able to state the ways categorical data can be displayed. So that's frequency distribution tables or bar graphs. You should be able to understand the key components of a graph. So salt, having an appropriate scale, axes go up in regular increments, labels on our axes and on our bars, and also a clear and concise and informative title. And finally, as we did in that last example, display categorical data in a frequency distribution table and in a bar graph.